Happy, I guess, Saturday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You've Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, we're starting this thing about half hour late, 15 minutes due to me and 15 minutes due to us just talking about beer.
Yeah,
Which
the important stuff, right?
exactly. And like it's funny because normally we save that beer talk for this. So, but we will talk a little bit because I just cracked open my first beer. So, you know, I play volleyball now on Friday nights, and I just realized I forgot to take my contacts out. So, um, you know, and then my face is all freaking red from still being sweaty. But yeah, I play volleyball Friday nights, and normally it's like 7 to 9 my time. So I usually would get done around 10 your time. It's 5 minute drive from my house. 10:30, 11 o'clock, we're recording. But now um, we got pushed back because kids sports take precedent at the park district. So we don't get done until 10:15, and then I had to uh, make a Taco Bell run. That took entirely too long. But yeah, I cracked open a beer, and I thought, what better thing to crack open than a beer from Off Color Brewing called Beer for Dealing with Your Family. And if you can see the can, it is a 12% alcohol malt liquor. I believe that is the appropriate beer for dealing with your family. So shout out to Off Color Brewing. I actually really like this beer. It's kind of we were talking earlier. It's kind of like a Belgian strong ale. Like I've actually never had a malt liquor.
Really?
Yeah, like my brother used to
Okay.
buy Mickey. Was it Mickey's all the time, right? In the little stubby bottles.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't
It,
think I haven't had like an OE 400 or whatever.
you should get an old English 800 or some ice house or whatever you got and tape it to your hand and see what that does for you. That's a college experience that you should always have. Just to kind of warn yourself that like there's a reason you shouldn't go down that path in life, right? Like there's something to be said about that. But yes, it does taste like if you ever I brew beer, so you do one of those things where if you ever add like table sugar into a beer, like it kind of just tastes like okay, you took a Bud Light and you poured like some isopropyl into it, like that's about the taste that you get into it. So I'm glad to hear that that's a little bit better than that because you know most malt liquor is you brew a 4% beer and you turn it into a 9% beer through some other very not tasty means.
Yeah, they use amber. The secret ingredients are amber candy syrup and sugar.
There you go. That's exactly how you get malt liquor, right? You brew a beer and you add some just simple sugars to it, and it ferments out into something that tastes like rubbing alcohol. So
I
if you can balance that, great. Most 40-ounce bottle are not going for balance. Tell you that.
All right. Let's. I got two stories that we got to tell here. So we'll go with the 40s one first. So there used to be a bar in downtown Chicago called Houndstooth. It was a Alabama bar of all things, like an Alabama, University of Alabama, right? And Houndstooth,
Shout out,
thinking about the pattern.
yeah.
Um,
Shout out Bama boys. Yeah, again.
yeah, shout out the Bama boys. But if I remember correctly, it was like under the L track somewhere in like Lakeview area, Wrigleyville, and on Sundays they had 40s, but they were like 40s of like Miller Lite. So like we were like drinking 40s of like Miller Lite at the bar, and I don't know, like it was just like a fun little novelty. That's really, I think, the only place I've actually had a 40 is at Houndstooth. Um, what was really funny is when we were in college, and just kind of after college, I was starting to get into home brewing a little bit, and so like just after college, I'd already started kegging, and so I had a kegerator. So people would come over, and we'd just hang out in the backyard. I had the kegerator out back, and so people just go over, just they're pouring, pouring their own beers and stuff. So it was a fun little thing. But I always remember, we probably homebrewed right around the same time. You go on like forums or you go on Reddit or whatever, and the question people always asked was like, how do I get this ABV higher? They're like, I really like this beer, but I want this to be like 10%, not 6%. And then like they're like, I just added sugar to this, and like it doesn't taste good. Like, and so like that just reminded me of this. But like that was always the thing. People were like, no, I need to crank up this ABV. And beer got that way a little bit. Like people would were chasing after ABV, and like we were talking about earlier. I mean, even now, you go to your local brewery for the most part, and they got half of their taps are probably IPAs or IPA adjacent, or hazy IPA, double IPA, triple IPA, whatever. And you look at like just a regular IPA, it's like 6.5%, 7% alcohol. Where most most people are used to drinking, well, not used to drinking, but like when they used to like come out and be like, oh well, one drink is a 12-ounce beer at like 4.5% alcohol. And now I'm taking a 12% alcohol
Yeah,
16-ounce can to the dome right now. Like, how many drinks is that? I don't know. But yeah.
that was always the dangerous stuff of I mean I got homebrew stories too of I think I did one beer where I chased ABV and I made a Christmas ale. I didn't really like where it ended up, so I think I poured like half a bottle of cognac just straight into the keg
Oh
and like
man.
started. It turned out actually pretty good, but you couldn't drive after one of those. And like you said, right, like it's very easy when you're sitting at home with taps to be like, I'm having one drink, and you're filling up like a flower pot or something like that, and just sucking it down. So, it's dangerous, but I'm you know kind of
I
happy to be
made
past that a little bit.
so I've never had Westy 12, right? I've never had it.
You should have it. It's
I've
very good.
had I've had App 12, right, which is from what I hear, very very close. But it was supposed to be a basically like a Belgian quad style in that vein. And I messed up so many things like when I was brewing it, and then like I ended up losing. I don't know. I remember what happened. Like something happened where like I ended up losing like 20% of the batch. I forget if it was because it spilled or boiled over or something. Like there was just like it was just a mess. And so I make it, and then I bottle it up, and I give a couple bottles to my buddy, and the yield was like way lower than it should have been. Like it was just terrible. And this is my buddy who's really really into beer, and he was just like, this is literally one of the top 10 beers I've ever had. He's like this is so freaking good. And um and he's like, you got to make it again. I was like, dude, like I literally could not reproduce it. Like I messed up so much on it that I have no idea. Like I could make the same batch, but it's not, and the same recipe, but it's not going to come out the same. But
you you find that out with home brewing that if you make something good, people will drink it and you don't get a lot of it. If you make something bad, you're the dumping it or drinking 5 gallons of hooch that you don't like. So
well, it's funny, right? Like and we'll get to these races soon, but um
sometimes it's fine.
it's just
We're better
weird.
talking about beer the way we've been going, so it's fine.
I mean, dude, like it's this weird bell curve, right? And I've seen like the meme, right, where it's like, someone drinking a Modelo, right, is like the like level one, and it's like level five is, oh, I'm drinking some, like crazy, you know, off the wall type beer, and then like level 10 is I'm drinking a Modelo, right? And I kind of feel like when you homebrew, like just the sheer consistency, the clarity, and just the clean like taste that you get in something like a Modelo, like just it's impressive, and it gets really impressive when you start making your own thing. I still remember my sister-in-law asked me to make a beer for my brother-in-law's I think it was his 40th birthday, and we had been homebrewing together, and so I made a cream ale, right, which is basically uh, if you're not from the Midwest and don't know what spotted cow is a cream ale. It's probably the best example I can think of off the top of my head, but um, it's basically a Budweiser just made with a different yeast to kind of explain it easy. So it's going to taste very clean, very light, that kind of thing. Um, and so I made it, and I had this bright idea that I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna put this thing outside, like for like a day, um, because it was really cool outside. It was like 40 degrees, 45 degrees outside. I'm like, I'm gonna put it outside for a day, just to let it ferment, like kind of cold. So I did that, and then I brought it inside after like a day or two, um, and I'll tell you what, man, that is literally the cleanest tasting beer I've ever made. Like I always like making Belgians and things like that because we know like if something ferments hot, it gets those weird flavors in it. But in a Belgian beer or a wheat beer, that's what you want. Like that's
Kind of the
that's like
point,
the
right? You can
thing,
put it
right?
anywhere and it'd be fun.
Exactly. So I a greater chance for error, but I made that, I kegged it, and people were asking like what brewery it was from. So I thought that was kind of cool. But secondly, my brother-in-law was like, "You brewed this yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "How come none of the beers that you and I brew together taste like this?" So
And the answer to that is I don't know, right?
yeah,
Like that's the problem. You can't do it again. That's tough.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
but yes, as someone who sucked down a very oversized mug of Pacifico at dinner tonight, it was good. I missed that stuff, you know.
Yeah. Well, we got speaking of missing things, we got three races here that we're going to talk about. Um, and I believe we start here in race 9, going 1,400 meters. And I'm actually really curious to hear what you kind of see in this because when I was looking and when I was looking at like Speed Pro and I was looking at this, like, this 6 looks really really good. Now, granted, the problem with the 6 is the 6 just doesn't win, or hasn't won in 5 starts. Maybe limited sample size, maybe he's kind of finally coming down to the right level, but he also like weight wise hasn't moved in here. But they had that last race very fast. Um, and we're basically running it back here, going to 1,400 meters again, same weight, same jock. And if anything, we got the best draw that this horse has gotten in his, 5 starts here, or 5 starts here at Sha Tin. He's 0 for 7 here in Hong Kong. Um, so he's my top pick in here. I don't know what price we're gonna get. My guess is that this 3 is going to take a lot of money because they're going to see J-Mac back aboard. Last time out that this horse, J-Mac ran, but at least, like I said, on Speed Pro, the 3 did not look to be as fast as some of the other horses in here. So maybe this could be a bit of an overlay. Maybe people see that this is like a Hong Kong Derby nominated horse. I mean, that's in Class 4, so I think I was a little maybe that's come and gone there. But yeah, I like the 6 here as my top pick. I am going to use a couple other horses. I would like the 7 a lot more if the 7 would just stop losing the draw lottery. I mean, granted, the 7 has won out in the 12 post, but I mean, this horse has just been snake bit by this draw lottery. And granted, like when he drew the rail, he didn't run that well. Um, but I don't know. Maybe he likes being drawn outside. I don't know. But he's won from this post before. He Brendan Abdullah is still on here, so um, I'm gonna use him here. And then I thought the 11 Circuit Fiery. Um, Now this is a horse that is only win was 2 back in Class 5, right? And maybe that was just sheer fact that, hey, this is a horse that finally found his level. But I don't know, like the form's not that bad, right? You got a second, you got a fourth, you got a first, you got a third, right? And with the exception of that race three back where he was fourth by 3.5 lengths. I mean, he's been right in every single one of these races. So maybe just a little unlucky, and now draws the rail here. I get he had a good draw last time, but um, he had a little bit of a tough start. So I don't know. Maybe drawing on the rail with a little bit of a better start, we could get something here with the 11 circuit fiery. But yeah, I'm gonna be on the 6, 7, and 11. Where did you land here, Matt?
Yeah, actually, very similar to you. I feel like you kind of stole my notes on a couple of these horses, to be honest. So, same thoughts on the 7. I'm going to use him as a B, just for the same reasons you did, right? I mean, this horse keeps losing the draw lottery. Like he hasn't drawn inside 12 for what this is going to be 5 out of the last 6 races or something like that. It's crazy. But to your point, like the one race he drew on the rail was awful, right? Like that was the one bad effort he had. And this is overall like a weird race. Like I don't like this race all that much because I don't feel like there's any standouts, and I feel like there's a lot of horses who probably don't like the rail, oddly. And I feel like I ended up picking a couple that may not like the rail, and I'm not really all that confident in my picks here. But the two A's I had, one was the 11 Circuit Fiery for the same reasons you saw, right? Like it's weird because he hasn't really proved himself in Class 4, but I do think if he's going to win in Class 4, this is kind of the field he's going to get, right? He wasn't really embarrassed running third last out. Um, I just don't know. Like you kind of see something where he always likes to be 2 or 3 wide. Like he doesn't like to be caught inside horses, and that kind of concerns me, right? Like it's one thing to say, hey, like you have horses that have wide trips, and that 6 I think is a really good example actually, where you look at that last race and he was kind of 4 wide throughout. Um, he's kind of getting caught up wide, and you can kind of excuse that trip. Whereas the 11, like even when he gets a good draw last out, he still ends up 3 wide, kind of swinging out. And so that says to me, like, okay, this horse doesn't want to be caught inside. And to me, the rail's probably a
Mm.
bad draw for him at the end of it. That said, I mean, he just looks better on paper, right? And I know he's bumping up from like second off of Class 5 here. I don't know. I mean, he just kind of the figs look good enough in this field to still win, and I feel awkward not using him, but I do have concerns. And then very similar concerns for the other horse I picked, which is the 13 winning data. I'm kind of willing to toss the race 2 back at least. Like that race was pretty slow, even though he was, kind of on the rail, right? He made contact inside. You know, he wasn't really able to get clear running the stretch. So I think you can toss that one. I'm just, I don't know what this horse wants to do, right? And I don't know if he's going to like the trip from the rail or, if he wants to kind of work out much like the 11 does, I think. So, it's just this horse, at least to me, stands out because if you look back like a year plus, this horse was running competitive races up in Class 3, right? Like there is ability in this horse where, he was finishing, fourth. He was hitting the board, close to Class 3 at similar distances. And now he's kind of down at the same weight he was, close to winning in Class 3, down in Class 4. That at least to me screams he has some ability. And if I can make some excuses for that horse, then I think he's, something that I want to use. So I'm going to be 11 and 13 as A's. I'm going to use the 7 as a B. I probably will use the 6 as a B. It's just awkward. Like the 2-back race was so bad, and I don't know whether to make an excuse for that one or just kind of, chalk it up. And his other races do look good enough, I think, to win. Like the, last race out in the 3-back looked pretty good, but I just don't know. So I'm going to go pretty wide here just because I don't really have much confidence in anyone in this field, unfortunately. I just kind of hope to get through this one. So, yeah, it's not a great race to me and not one that I really want to kick off the sequence with, but is what it is.
All right, race 10, the Cat O handicap, 1,600 meters, Class 3 racing. Where'd you land here?
Yeah, you know, I probably just went to the class in this race, right? Like, I don't know. It's another field that to me just didn't look all that great, right? Like, you have a bunch of horses that can't win in Class 3. So I just kind of took the horses that were running in Class 2 pretty well, right? I took the 2, Choo Chow Spirit and the 3 Beauty Crescent, right? I mean, Choo Chow Spirit as an A, I don't know if he wants a mile, right? Like he hasn't really shown anything in his mile the last two races, and it's hard to see any form in him. But I think he had excuses, right? He was wide, he broke bad, kind of last out. He's had poor draws, etc. And I don't know. It screams to me like, okay, like finally this horse is getting some class relief. If he has any form in him, maybe. And I do think people are going to get turned off by the 2 mile efforts last out and see him at a mile here and kind of get, okay, turned off a bet in him. And if you can get a halfway decent horse that was, basically upwards of a year ago, pretty competitive in group races, now running in class 3, that's one I think you have to use. So, I like him. And then Beauty Crescent, right? Similar story. You had a horse win kind of 3 straight in class 3 against a bunch of horses that have never won in class 3. You know, Screams to me like, okay, you probably want to bet this. It just, I mean, the flip side of this is I do think he's probably going to take too much money because people are going to see the class drop. They're going to see Zach getting aboard. Tony Cruz is like one for his last 60 something over the last 2 months. I don't know how much money this horse takes. So if I had to win bet this, I'd probably bet the 2 over the 3. But I do think probably people see this pretty similarly, unfortunately. And I don't know. Again, another race where I'm just probably trying to get through it because I don't think a lot of these horses have any ability. It's a pretty weak class 3 race to me. I debated using the 8 and like Lucky Sam Gore too, but I think I shied away from that just given, kind of Jerry Chow getting up at the distance and having not had a win over the past like 2+ years at this distance too. So I think I'm just going to be 2-3, using both as A's, and again, probably hopefully try to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe don't need to labor the point here too much, but I just think the 2 and the 3 are just much better than everybody else in this field. Um, the 2 and the 3 have got some back races that, uh, I mean, just absolutely win this race by 3 lengths. Like, I mean, like it's pretty. I think there's a big difference between some of the 2 and 3's best races, and like it's tough. I think Zach getting up for the 3 absolutely kills any value that you might have gotten on here. Not saying that you would have, but um, Zach getting the board, I mean, probably tells you something too. So yeah, I'm gonna use the 2 and the 3 here. Those are really the only horse I'm gonna use. The only other horse that I was a little interested in was the 1, the Boombox. Um, Kind of just similar, like, hey, like this is a horse that was running, class 3, and running all right. Went to Happy Valley, won a race, um, and he's kind of lightly raced compared to some of these horses, right? He's only got 11 starts, right? You got some, you know, uh, you got 31 starts on Chu Chow Spirit. You got 38 on Beauty Crescent. Like these are hard knocking horses that have been around for a bit. The Boombox only got 11 starts here in Hong Kong, um, and at Sha Tin, he's got 3 wins and 8 starts, right? So pretty successful job here at Sha Tin. Hasn't gone the mile, but the 1650, he ran well. But granted, it's a 2 turn race, right? So I don't know. Honestly, the thing that scared me off was the draw. I just think the 11 post is going to be kind of a tough ask here, but I don't know. This could be a horse I might make as a B. Might include, but I don't know. I just think the 2 and the 3 are just much the best. So
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I guess the only other thing I'll say about this race too is the only other horse I looked at that I might want to use the 10 California Waves, and I do think we'll talk a little bit probably in both of our best bets, but right, like he's coming out of that restricted class 3. If that race proves to be strong, like coming into race 8 in the Hong Kong Mile, uh, you know maybe that horse has a chance in here. I don't know. I always get kind of concerned about like restricted races and how they run out of that, but you do kind of have a horse that at least looks like he's progressing a bit. You have a horse that kind of like I see that kind of uplining figures. Like I see, okay, he's obviously had a terrible draw in that race last out, ran wide the whole way around, gets the rail draw now. I don't know. I might use that one as a B if you get a decent price on it, and if you see that kind of, that mile race come back, like if Invincible Ibis or Beauty Bolt run well in race 8, maybe that upgrades to 10 a little bit in California Waves, but TBD out of there.
We didn't really talk about this 8 at all. Did you give the 8 a look at all?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think the other horse that I was gonna use, I think that I ended up crossing out was the 8. I don't know. That run last out was pretty good, right? Like anytime you see a horse closing into a really slow pace, it's worth using, right? Like I think it kind of caught my eye because you had a horse again, like they went really slow up front. Um, you know, he closed into a race that otherwise was, kind of on the front end. He was 3 wide all the way throughout. So, theoretically, this horse has been picking up some ability and running well. I don't know. I just don't know what price you get on this. And like I said, like Jerry Chow is 0 for 27 at a mile over the past like 2 years. So he's never won at the distance. The jockey kind of concerned me. I just didn't think you get the right price on it, to be honest. But he's got a shot for sure. Like he's in the mix. He was definitely one to consider. Where I think a lot of horses in here were kind of just cross outs. So
All right, we'll move on to race 11, the Yan Chao Tong handicap. Um, I thought this was an interesting race. 1,400 meters here. Um, you know, when I looked at this one, once again, my eyes just went to the high weights. Um, I think the 2 6 pack looks really, really good in this spot. Gets the rail here. Had an inside draw last time out. Was able to just stay that 2 to 3 wide and win. Get up right in time on Kai Ying attack, and yeah, I don't really see any reason why we wouldn't see something close to that repeat performance here. So I really do like the 2 6 pack. And then the one midwinter wind. Um, you know, Man, I just wish this horse had a better draw. 13 posts is tough. But I do think that this could be a horse that, dropping down in class, might be able to, you know, uh, find some form here again. I mean, like, horse has been running, in the money in class two. So, granted that much, much lower weight, but gets Hugh Bowman aboard, right? And, we've talked about this before. Hugh Bowman, he can't make weight on some of the lighter horses. So he's usually on some of the higher weights in here, right? I forget what weight he can drop down to. I think it's like 128 or 129 or something. Like it's not very, very low. So he generally tends to ride a bunch of the high weights, but I mean he wins at a very, very decent clip. He's like right around what 12% I think this year, give or take, and so yeah, I think him getting on here is probably a good sign. I mean, he was on 6 pack for a bit, and then Luke Ferraris got aboard and he won immediately. So, um, but yeah, I think the jock change here. I mean, and you have to go back a little bit, but he has this horse only has one run in Class 3, and it was a win. So, it could just be, hey, this is a horse getting back to the right level, and yeah, I mean the draw kind of sucks, but we'll see what price we get, and we'll take a shot here. So I'm just gonna use the 1 and the 2 in this spot, and I'll shoot it over to you. Where did you land here?
yeah, I don't know. I don't like this race either. So this isn't my favorite sequence of all time, but hey, when I've liked them, I haven't done that well either. So maybe that's a good sign for me. The inverse handicap, the inverse confidence interval, or whatever that I posted online a few weeks ago. Um, I probably defaulted to the 6 in here, right? I mean, on paper, he looks like he kind of hates winning, and maybe he does, but I do think that effort last out was probably excusable. Um, look, he obviously broke from a bad draw, had a bad break, got hung 3 wide. Ended up trying to close like way wide into the stretch into a race that was won on the front end. I just thought he had a lot of excuses. And, granted, the problem is he went off 3 to 5 in that race. So you're probably not going to get a price here either. Um, but I can hope that people kind of get scared off by the fact that he doesn't like winning. And sometimes you see people get sick of betting those horses and move off and you get a better price on them. And so I do think, obviously he's going to be second off the layoff, second up this year, running back pretty quick, given he was only running 2 weeks ago. Had some excuses, gets a better draw here. I do like Guyon. He's been riding really well lately. So I think he's probably a deserving favorite in this race. I think he will go off favorite in this race. TBD what price you get. If you get another 3 to 5, like the sequence isn't going to pay anyway. But, for a horse that's never missed a board, if you can get a little bit of value on it, maybe, right? So that'll be my lone A. The couple of the horses I used the 10 Thriving Brothers. It's weird, right? I mean, this horse kind of didn't get any respect after he won 3 back at the same distance, right? I mean, granted, that was a really slow pace up front. He kind of won it on the front end. He was jockeying back and forth with the other horse that, they were kind of running 1-2 all the way around. So that horse did kind of get the candy trip, right? And the Andrew Champagne candy ass trip of this here. But I mean, the fact that he won off 18 to 1 and then next out went off 13 to 1 and 39 to 1 at Happy Valley kind of drops back down near the weight he won at. I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to get slept on a little bit. And I do think maybe he could be a little bit on form because the figures in that, given the slow pace, very much do fit. So I think he's worth a use given the price you're probably going to get on this horse, right? Like, he just, I think he could show something. I think, at least, given the odds you're probably going to get here, maybe, right? Like he was running against Lucy, this guy who I think is a very good horse. That race did come back kind of strong given the pace and given he's had a couple next out winners out of that. So, I do think he's worth a use. I think he's worth an include as a B in here. And then I also used the 3 Everyone Star. And look, there's a reason I don't like this race is because for the 6 kind of looking like he doesn't like winning, the 3 is very much a horse that actually might hate winning, right? Like you look at this horse and his last 3 races at 1400, he's lost by a combined half a length, right? Like he lost by a half length in the October 19th race. He lost by a nose in November. He lost by another nose on December 14th. And so this horse is just one of those horses that like has very hard luck. And arguably like, a couple extra bobs, he could have 3 wins here in a row and be up in class 2. The problem is, right, like Zach's hopping off and he doesn't even have a mountain here, right? Like he's physically present at Sha Tin and he's just deciding not to ride this horse anymore because he's probably sick of it too. And so I don't know what price you get on this horse with Zach hopping off, but I can't imagine that, it's obviously a jockey downgrade because anyone's a jockey downgrade from Zach. And I do think he's a bit slower than Super Express, and I have questions if he's a hanger and can actually win a race. But if everybody else sees that and kind of zigs one way because they're seeing Zach hop off and they're seeing a horse that doesn't like winning, maybe you can zag yourself into a price. So I'll probably use him, but I don't feel great about it because I don't really like betting horses that can't really prove they could win. So, I don't know. Again, I'll toss him in here just because I don't really have any better opinions, but most of my money will be through Super Express in the 6th, and I'll use 10 and 3 as Bs.
All right, and then I think we both went to the same race for our bonus bet, which is race 8.
We did go to the
Hong
Kong Mile.
Classic Mile. Yeah, where did you land here?
So I landed on the 4 in Beauty Bolt, and look, I mean, last time out, obviously he broke from the 14 post, and was kind of up against Invincible Ibis in that race. It was an interesting trip. I think Zach, from the 14 post was kind of stranded 4 wide. And so you look at the first part of that race and you're like, wow, he's screwed. Like that horse is never getting back over. And did kind of get to slot him in 2 wide on both turns. And you can see he kind of gave up some ground for that. But I think he had to press just a little too much early. And so I think he gave him enough ground. And I think he kind of, pressed the pace a little bit too much. And I think the little bit of difference gave Invincible Ibis the win in that race. And so I think now, you kind of turn the tables on that. I do think he has a chance over the 2. And I think you get a much better price because you see people are going to see, hey, he lost Invincible Ibis last out. he's a less talented horse. I think the big thing, especially like when you look at the Hong Kong Mile and you look at these young 4-year-old horses, I really want horses that have proven they can actually get the distance. And you look at a lot of horses in this race, and they just kind of haven't ever run at a mile, so you don't know if they're going to, be able to take to that, kind of increased form or increased stamina. You get some horses in here that, again, were running in lower classes or kind of showed, hey, once they try and run the full mile, they kind of just peter out. So I'm going to go with that. Again, I'm not sure J-Mac's going to do too much better from the 12 post than he did in the 14 post last out. But with a decent trip, and again, a horse who I know at least can get the distance, I do think is kind of progressing forward, and I think one that you'll probably get a decent enough price on to play here. So my play in this race will be the 4 Beauty Bolt, and hopefully J-Mac can get me home here.
I'm gonna go with the 2, Little Paradise here. I am going to assume that this is not going to be your favorite in this race. I think the 1 with Zach aboard is going to take a ton of money, even with the draw. I think the 3 Invincible Ibis running in that restricted race and, seeing those 4 wins in a row, I think is going to take that money. And yeah, I just think that I think the 2 is probably the best horse in this race. And granted, right, won in class 2 there last time with Zach aboard, and Zach obviously gets off. So, but this is a horse that is going to get a better draw than that horse in the 1. It's going to get a better draw than the 3. Going to get a better draw than the 4, who are kind of the other main players. And I just think that's gonna really set up, I think, here for the 2 Little Paradise. I'm guessing he's gonna be maybe like your 3rd choice in here. So maybe we'll get 4-1. I'm hoping somewhere around there, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't understand how people bet this race and he goes off your favorite, and then I look like an idiot.
I think you're probably about in the ballpark there. He's definitely going to be 3rd or 4th choice in here. I think you at least get 4-1. So
yeah, I mean, I think 4-1's a very, very fair price on the 2. Yeah, I'll definitely be betting anything around that or better. So.
And I mean, look, he's out of Toronado, which calls for a beer bet, right? I mean, realistically.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down for a little Toronado versus Night of Thunder over here. So, yeah, we were talking earlier. I was like trying to figure out what beers I got to buy and send. So, I think I might head out to the bottle shop on Sunday. Oh, there's a bottle shop by me that does a daytime board game day, but we have our normal board game night on Saturday, so I don't know what shape I'm going to be in on Sunday morning. So we'll see how it goes, but
we're due a shipment and opening stream though, so
yeah,
one of these will turn into a
well it's good because we're going to let all the weather pass so these shipments aren't delayed. And then, yeah, we'll be good. So
we don't need beers freezing. We'll put it down. So.
And that's going to do it for us here on You've Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. Check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drag. He is at Slow and Steady. Matt will have his full card picks up sometime before the races go off on Saturday. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.